Okay, thank you for your patience. We are reconvening this regularly scheduled Board of Education meeting for December 17th, 2024. And before we get started, I'm going to read our land acknowledgement.
Oh, I have it over here.
I have one.
Oh, okay.
We acknowledge the land currently occupied by the Washington Unified School District as a traditional home of the Patwin people. These sovereign people have been the caretakers of the area since time immemorial. Despite centuries of genocide and occupation, the Patwin people continue as vibrant and resilient, federally recognized and unrecognized tribes, bands, and rancherias. Today, we honor and recognize our Patwin tribal neighbors for their contributions as the caretakers of the Sacramento Valley and honor their sustained existence. With their blessing and continued guidance, Washington Unified School District seeks to provide an accessible, equitable, and supportive institution of learning and experience. Okay, and that is going to take us into the Pledge of Allegiance. Can we have our Director of Fiscal Services, Billy Duba, will you lead us in the pledge, please? All right. Thank you. And that takes us into our roll call vote. Trustee Hunt. Here. Vice President Coffey.
Here.
Trustee Wong. Here. And Clerk Castro.
Present.
All right. Are there announcements of actions taken in closed session? We have two, Government Code Section 48918, consideration of student discipline cases, number 2024-02, number 2024-03, number 2024-04, and number 2024-05. Direction was given. And item number 2, Government Code 54957.1, pending or, no, hold on. Sorry, we were, yes, pending or potential litigation. Sorry, we have quite a few that we're going back for. So we had unanimous approval of staff recommendation. And then for item 3, 4, and 5, we will be returning to closed session. Okay, are there any changes to the agenda other than we are going to remove item P1, P2, P3, and P4? So we're removing action items 1, 2, 3, and 4. Are there any other changes to the agenda?
No.
Okay, then I get a motion to approve? Okay, moved by Vice President Coffey.
Second.
And seconded by Trustee Wong. All in favor?
Aye.
I too vote aye. Thank you. Okay, and that moves us into our association reports. We have our student board member report with Mariana Gutierrez from River City High School.
Couldn't you hear me? Good evening, everyone. So first off, we're going to start off with Bridgeway. Bridgeway participated in Ruby Bridges Walk to School Day and has put in place a new referral system which recognizes positive behavior. Elkhorn's ELD students took a trip to Sac State. Their eSport teams placed second in their competition, and leadership has actively been planning events for students. Southport's eighth graders visited Health Professions High School on the 5th of December and Bright on the 11th. At Stonegate, Sammy Circuit came and spread his inspirational message of perseverance and encouragement. And Jack Frost PTO sponsored event was held for families. At Westmore, Oaks, Sammy Circuit also came. The Dragons loved it. Washington Unified School Virtual Academy students have started a theater unit, and the next in-person day is December 12th. At our Washington adult schools, 2 students have earned their U.S. citizenship, and 4 students have fulfilled the graduation requirements. Congratulations. At Yolo High School, students visited American River College in Sacramento State. River City High School students in the Robotics Club have been working hard to complete their robots and drones. Washington Middle College High School would like to congratulate their class of 2025 on their CASP testing. Thank you to all the teachers who have been supporting them. Last but not least, I want to thank the district for investing in their student board members, aka me. Thank you so much for sending us to the CSBA conference and allowing us to expand our knowledge so that we are able to fulfill the needs of all students. It was very educational. I loved it.
Thank you. That takes us to our WSTA report, and that is with President Gandara. No, that is with President Knapp.
Wrong organization.
I thought we would do something fun tonight. My apologies. Welcome, President Knapp.
I'd like to say thank you to the student board member and let you know that you are welcome to stay. I'm used to that, but thank you very much. What a really good report, and it's always good to see a fresh face, and it's exciting. Like, I think about you getting to go to that conference and learning about these structures. So, good evening, board. My first ask is if Cheryl, I don't know if you can repeat the officer position so that I address people appropriately, because I tried to write them down and I couldn't. So.
Yes, so President is Sarah Kirby Gonzalez, our Vice President is Virginia Coffey, and our Clerk is Vanessa Castro.
Perfect, thank you. Well, good evening, President Kirby Gonzalez, Vice President Coffey, Clerk Castro, and trustees. It's good to see you. I want to start out by congratulating Jackie Wong, Jeanette Hunt, and Vanessa Castro. It's such a great honor to serve WUSD, and I know you're going to relish that time. I certainly have, and we're glad to have you on board. So, I want to start off by talking about right before Thanksgiving or the fall break. We know that there was a teacher that was assaulted at Riverbank High School by a student, or Riverbank K-8 by a student. And the first thing I want to say is I want to say thanks to the district for taking recent student conduct seriously and making sure that we're doing our best to protect teachers and other students moving forward. One thing that I'm hearing as I go from site to site in the district, one thing that just keeps popping up, and it sounds alarmist when you hear it once or twice, but when you hear it every site, that teachers are concerned about what's going to happen. If these trends continue, something is going to happen at our sites. You hear that over and over again, you become concerned. And so I appreciate Ed Services, the district cabinet, and the board taking these incidents seriously so that we can protect both teachers and students. Just a couple of notes tonight. I don't have much to talk about, but I did want to talk about, I saw on the agenda tonight an action item approval for a conference in Texas for 3 administrators, and it's over $10,000 for 3 administrators. You know, I've said this before, I am a fan of continuing our professional development in the district, and I understand that this work can cost a lot and be expensive. My question always when I come to the board will be, can we find this conference or something that will do the same job in the state of California and reduce costs? If we can't, we can't. We need to expect ourselves to be the best. So we need to send people where they need to go so that we can be the best. But I just want to make sure that we're always looking at that. Can we bring the costs down by doing these conferences in state, especially as fiscal times have tightened a little bit? Kind of on the same track, although this is more of kind of, I'm waiting to hear more about it, but the fiscal services position that's posted in tonight's agenda, my understanding is that it's possibly filling a vacant position or kind of doing a couple of things. I'm anxious to hear a little bit more about it tonight because there's not much in the agenda other than the position. And I think at times like these, context is really, really important. And so I'm hoping we can hear a little more. And also in the future, maybe have a little more context in the agenda somehow so that we, the public, can be properly prepared to speak on the matters. Other than that, this is the last board meeting before the holiday break, and I want to genuinely wish everybody here a warm holiday with their family and a good start to the new year. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, President Knapp. And now we have our CSEA report with President Gandara. Welcome.
Good evening, President Gonzalez, Superintendent Hildreth, Cabinet, and trustees. I too want to congratulate Jackie, Vanessa, and Jeanette on their election and their win, and I'm glad to see you guys up here. And I do want to say, back in, I don't know, November, before we started doing interviews, I stood up here and I said, I hope the next board puts students and staff first, and I hope that's what we intend to do these next 4 years. I seen up there earlier when you guys were in closed session, the Golden Bale Award, and I want to thank everybody that was involved, but especially classified staff like our youth outreach specialists, our secretaries, our school liaisons, those people who play a pivotal role in student attendance. So I want to thank them. Safety concerns. So I'm aware of the Riverbank incident, but there was also an incident at River City. And my members need to feel safe, as well as the students, but my members need to feel safe. I'm just going to say this. I've been around a little while, and I've seen classified staff get put on paid admin leave for a whole lot less. That's where I'm leaving this. Staffing concerns. So I do want to bring up, I think we need to look a little more closely at daytime custodian. We have really big sites with student population like Bridgeway, we have Stonegate, Southport, and even Riverbank. Maybe not, doesn't have the numbers, but the footprint of the school is really big. And we can't expect one custodian to, I mean, essentially they're in the cafeteria all day, you know, with lunch and breakfast and lunch, and then it takes time to clean, and by the time you get done cleaning the breakfast, a cycle of lunch is going in, and that's neglecting the campus throughout. So I would really like to look at custodial staffing. And then just the last thing, I do want to, we had on the last board agenda, one of my members, Ala, is retiring, and Taya is a custodian who's retiring, and I just want to thank them for their service, and I'll be retiring soon too. Thank you.
Thank you, President Gandara. And to our student board member, Gutierrez, you are welcome to stay as long as you would like, and you can give input on our agenda items as well. We also know that you have some homework that you need to do, and you were here early, so it's your choice, but you're welcome to stay as long as you would like. Okay, and that now takes us to public comments, and I believe that we do have a public comment, so I will read our disclaimer. At our regular board meeting held on February 9th, 2023, the board resolved that written public comments received by 3 p.m. on the day of the meeting will be provided to the board but not read into the record during the meeting. Today, we did not receive any public comments through email. Members of the public may address the board on topics of the board agenda during every meeting. In addition, during regular meetings, the public may address any topic within the jurisdiction of the board. Please know that the board is listening to your comments, but by law cannot meaningfully respond in this forum to items not on the agenda. The board may limit the total time for public input on any topic to 20 minutes unless it waives the item limit for an item. Individual speakers may be limited to 3 minutes to comment on any topic. The board respects the rights of members of the public to speak regarding matters within its jurisdiction. However, please recognize that comments regarding a student other than the speaker's own children made during a public board meeting may be a violation of the student's right to privacy unless the speaker may be legally liable. If you reference a student's name other than your own student, you may be deemed out of order. Furthermore, it's important for the public to understand that negative or derogatory comments made against district employees or others, even those made in a public board meeting, may be actionable civil defamation. Although the board may not prohibit such comments, board policy allows the public to lodge complaints against district employees, providing more opportunity to be heard than is allowed under an open meeting law that governs this meeting. And who is our public speaker this evening?
We have one general public comment request from Ruth.
Welcome.
Thank you. You said one, so I knew it was only. Okay. Good evening. For the record, I am Ruth Pagano-Turn, speaking as a River City and Southport Elementary proud parent. This is a packed agenda, so I'm going to go quickly on the topic of the SRO. I like how Dr. Burns' slides under the info item begin with, quote, WUSD and West Sacramento Police Department intend to collaborate to enhance the safety and security of our students, staff, and educational environment. As a parent, I am in complete support of the collaboration with the PD. This year alone, the presence of a school resource officer could have deterred, prevented, and/or both several incidents of violence, threats of violence, attempted violence, intimidation, et cetera, pertaining to both students and staff. As a parent, I want the safest possible environment for my students. The most safest possible environment. It's possible, if possible, that this timeline be condensed. Can you do a survey at the same time of the letter of intent? Also, when you're doing the survey, can you word it so that it's easy for the public, community, staff, students to understand that this is happening, that the school resource officer is coming, and ask for their thoughts in a way that's, I don't know, practical, but then also common sense driven. Board governance. There's a resolution for support of school being a safe haven for all. This resolution reaffirms district dedication to protecting student privacy. What it says, student privacy. Well, the last time the city was here, they wanted all of our student info and data, including parent info. It's been weeks. There's no follow-up. So having a resolution like this and the city wanting all of our info seems meaningless and not actually what the district is doing. Protect our data now and then do the resolution, because this is an important and timely topic, obviously nationally as well. I want to close with celebrating the addition of 2 amazing WUSD parents to our school board. As a fellow parent, an employee, a union representative, I could not be more happier to know that our chosen elected officials are truly making decisions for the betterment of all students and staff, including their own students. Congratulations.
Hey, thank you. That now takes us into public hearing, which there is not one this evening. And so we have N, information discussion items. Item N1 is the timeline of Washington Unified School District and West Sacramento Police Department's commitment to service collaboration. And that is with Dr. Jay Burns, our Director of Special Programs and Student Services. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I want to welcome our newest trustees, Clerk Castro. Thank you. And Trustee Hunt. I'm going to get this right at some point. And now our new president, Kirby Gonzalez, and vice president, Ms. Coffey. And thank you, Trustee Wong. Okay, so tonight we're going to review the timeline regarding the Washington Unified School District and the West Sacramento Police Department's commitment to providing services as presented by staff. The Board of Trustees approved the designation of funding for future school resource officer services for WUSD schools with an initial estimate ranging from $280,000 and $377,000. As requested by the governing board at November 14, 2024, regular board meeting, this timeline will outline the WUSD and the WSPD's commitment to promoting a safe and secure learning environment. Okay. Can we go? Thank you, thank you. So we have it open. Go through an overview of the presentation, please. So the WSD and the West Sacramento Police Department intend to collaborate to enhance the safety and security of our students, staff, and educational environment. Okay? This is a preliminary timeline outlining the collaboration. This is preliminary, okay? It's informational. Next slide. And we'd just like to tell you that safety aligns with everything in our strategic plan, right? Safe schools, safe institutions. Next slide, please. And then it talks about the pillars, ensuring that every school is safe and welcoming for students, staff, and families with uniform standards and conduct that are fair to all, and discipline practices that are equitably enforced, restorative, and eliminate disproportionalities by student group. Next slide, please. Okay, so here's what we started out with. We're talking about a synthesis of feedback. Collect feedback from a survey. Survey families and staff between late January 2025 to mid-February 2025. Once again, preliminary timeline. Submit a letter of intent to the West Sacramento City Council. Request the city partnership in February 2025. Next slide. Continue with the synthesis of feedback, engagement sessions, parents/guardians, virtual or in person. First town hall meeting beginning late March. Provide an overview of the program, SRO roles and responsibilities. Second town hall meeting after spring break 2025, incorporating insights from the first session and addressing common thoughts. Next slide. Synthesis of feedback again. I'm going to get that word right sooner or later. Engagement sessions. Staff. Late March, early April 2025. Focus group to gather insights and thoughts regarding the program. Students. Late March, early April 2025. Students to express their thoughts and feelings about having SROs in schools. Next slide, please. Then we're going to analyze the feedback. Mid-May 2025, analyze the feedback collected from sessions and surveys. Identify common themes in the feedback. Summarize the report outlining key findings and recommendations. Share the summary report with all educational partners, inviting further comments and suggestions. Next slide. Decision making. Present all feedback to the governing board at the Thursday, June 12th, 2025 regular board meeting, including community feedback and recommendations for board input. Provide updates to the community on the outcome of the discussions and any next steps. And then a key component is ongoing communication and transparency. Maintain clear and consistent communication with the community throughout the process by providing updates via emails, newsletters, social media to ensure everyone stays informed about progress and developments. Okay? And I believe that is the last slide.
Are there any public comments on this item?
No public.
Okay, then I will open up to our board and our student board member as well. Any feedback, questions that you have?
I do.
Okay.
What's the process with how you come up with these survey questions? Can we
Sure.
just go over that?
As of right now, what I've been doing is sampling, looking around to districts who've gone through an SRO survey and collecting different questions to get feedback and see what's out there and start putting together a survey. Nothing's been formalized, but I'm just out there looking, saying sample surveys. What are some sample survey questions?
And you would be working with Westack PD on those
Correct.
questions, right? Not
Yes.
just.
It's not
only the
individualized,
units.
no.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, student board member Gutierrez?
Why isn't this? So I was wondering,
Yeah.
so you said you're going to do like a survey late March, early April. So how, what am I
You want to go back to the survey?
Yeah. Can
That's
you
the
go
first
back
slide.
to No, it's like later on.
January, February.
No, after. Like asking them like their perspective on,
Oh, the students,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
so if they give back feedback saying that they don't like it, are you going to take it back? Like you said, we're going to give feedback, right? Like I feel uncomfortable with an officer in my school, so then what's going to happen?
So we're going to present that feedback to the board.
Okay.
We're going to present feedback from the sessions, from the survey, from the staff, from the community sessions, from the student sessions.
And then would
to-
this consist of them like walking around schools, staying in the office, after school, before school, the whole day?
We haven't finalized what it looks
Okay.
like. We haven't finalized what the program looks
Uh-huh.
like. At the present time, we're looking at all options
Okay.
for what the program can look like.
I like the idea, though.
Yeah.
I feel like people would be less prone to fights and stuff if there's an actual officer there. It's more intimidating. They aren't as likely to create conflict. I like it.
Okay, are there other questions or thoughts? Trustee Wong?
Yeah, I have a wondering, because parents are wondering how, and I think it was a public comment, is in terms of the questions, are there questions that the public want us to answer in a certain way? Right, that it's not somebody else's survey, and that makes it easily understandable for a parent, a teacher, staff, students, right? And not just necessarily about an SRO, also talking to parents about this who are on multiple sides, is that they want to know what the trade-offs are in a tough budget year, right? Like fine, we want to spend up to $0.4 million, what are we trading off? What is that you have to give up for those things? So again, it is like, I'm not sure what you're looking at, but just speaking to the community and parents who entrusted me with these conversations that have multiple perspectives, how are we engaging the public in actually crafting these questions that will be understandable to them?
Okay, I'm making
So
note
like a
of that.
task force, maybe? Is there going to be a task force, including community members, students, teachers, staff, all of that? Task forces are, you're getting a perspective in each different area. So it's pretty fair, this is another quick question for me, so Measure O was passed, will there be funds allocated to that from Measure O?
Are you able to answer that, Dr. Hildreth?
I can speak to that. So I have had a recent conversation with Chief Strange and Aaron Long, who is the city manager. And so one of the areas, the slide where it says bring to city council. So the first piece is, one of the requests is to ask the city if they would be willing to pay for half, as they have done in past years. But that has to be determined by city council. So first, we have to request a letter to ask if they will. So we'll have a better idea just starting in terms of that after the city council makes that decision. And then secondly, in terms of Measure O, one of the things that they're thinking about as they have these conversations with the city is when Measure O was out there in the community, like, why do we need Measure O? They are really focused on making sure that whatever the community was told, the reason for Measure O, that they are living up to it. And I think of it, when I was talking to the chief, how we think about our bonds. We have been very clear, the board has been very clear to the community of whatever was in the bond, what people voted for, that is how we have been focusing on the dollars. And so one of the main pieces he shared about Measure O was a lot of it was the priority is to focus on what are the basic needs for all of the community. And so there is a true collaboration, a true partnership of wanting to have these conversations, go to the surveys, the town halls, to see what kind of supports might this look like, a position, or services. But there is also the reality of after we have these conversations, it will probably, Westsac PD will probably not have someone available to be dedicated to Washington Unified, at least not for the 25-26 school year, because they still have to do all of the things to even, I don't know their timeline of when Measure O funds come in, and then we know part of it was about recruitment and hiring and so many great things that the community voted for. But the chief was in agreement of really saying, whatever we do with the engagement sessions, will we be ready to have something in place differently by August 6th, which is when school starts? And probably not. Like, we might be able to think about some things differently, but in terms of a true position ready to go, that's highly unlikely per Chief Strange.
Thank you for saying that, because that was one thing I was going to mention as part of the timeline. We're not seeing the implementation of this, and I heard you that it's a preliminary timeline. I'd like to see if we could try to condense it a little bit and start feedback, the different types of feedbacks, the surveys, town halls, maybe piggyback on one another so we're not extending it out 6 months. And I appreciate the last nugget you put in there about communication and transparency. I'd love to see a timeline for that as well, when our families and community can expect communication on this topic. I don't know that we've done that yet since the funding was approved, but I think there's a lot of questions out there on the funding was approved and we might think it's happening tomorrow. So maybe just helping the community understand now, right, what does this look like, and then a communication timeline moving forward, I think would be helpful to answer some questions.
And I think that's one of the reasons, I know last meeting when President Coffey asked for this info, because this is what we want to be able to share with the community, knowing that piece that there hadn't really been public conversations about what to expect. In terms of the timeline, one thing that in terms of changing it and making it a little bit faster is that when you are partnering with another organization, we're also looking at their timeline and their capacity. So we don't want to engage in anything where we're asking West Sacramento Police Department about services that they will be providing. And so we're also, as we create timelines, we're connecting with them to make sure that they will be able to participate with us in these engagement surveys, and knowing that we are going to be creating this survey and we want to be able to collaborate, have meetings, send things back and forth. So the timeline is not like date specific, because we are working with district timelines and capacity, and we're also working with West Sacramento PD timeline and capacities as well.
Trustee Wong?
I guess there's a point of clarification. This is just an intent letter, and there was confusion because I looked at President Coffey at the time of like, okay, so this is intent to do what? So it's intent, but we don't have to do it. So that kept being a conversation. Whether or not it's set aside, we don't even know how much because we don't yet even know if the city's going to pick in. Like, there's just a lot. Like, there's no, like, so there's just a lot. So appreciate the timeline. And just, I think one of the reasons that we were having such an kind of really clarity, at least hearing from Vice President Coffey now, that really true public engagement, right? With our budget deficit and budget year +2 that, you know, some of us will still be on here depending on what people decide in 2 years. We have a budget deficit in that 27, 28 year. Like there was red, right? There was red. It's transparent. I'm not saying anything that wasn't shown. And so again, how are we factoring all those knowing that we won't have anybody in 25, 26. We're looking at 26, 27, and the next year is all red. Right? Like those are the things that I'm thinking about, that yes, we can do all this, but I think we have to be transparent with the public about the money. And we don't know what the money is going to even look like in these next 4 years, depending on whatever shifts are happening. And we also have negotiations. We also have staff. That is all part of like, yes, SROs, and be really transparent about what people are deciding.
Just for clarification, the budget that we are seeing this evening does have the funds that the board had set aside, have been set aside in the budget that we see this evening. Are there any other comments or questions? Yes, Vice President Coffey.
So one of the things that I saw on slide number 6 was a synthesis of feedback engagement sessions. My understanding when we said we were going to have town halls, and I was thinking we were going to have a few town halls in different sites at different areas. Seeing this, I see first town hall meeting beginning late March. I'm okay with that. Thinking there will be subsequentials, others at different sites. Then I see a second town hall meeting after spring break. Then that leads me to believe that we are going to be in certain areas of the community and targeting maybe the north or the south or in the middle, and only so many people will be able to attend. Part of what I was hoping to see, and also it says parents/guardians, virtual or in person. We're giving them a kind of like this, like you could do virtual or you could do in person. We're limiting their ability to come out. Whereas if you can't make this first one, we're gonna have another one, and it's okay. You don't have to have a big city hall area to get all of it, because it's gonna be very hard to manage that type of amount of people to get their feedback or what they're feeling. My suggestion would be smaller, more frequent, some maybe closer to Bridgeway, maybe another one close to Stonegate, close to the actual school sites, one next to Riverbank, one next to Westfield. So that way you're actually getting the neighborhood, because some can't drive, some don't have those transportation. We need to start thinking more of like, who are we trying to reach? Are we really trying to reach our parents and guardians, and we're only putting 2 town hall meetings, or are we really trying to engage everybody to make sure that they all are given a voice? So that's my only feedback is in regards to the engagement sessions regarding our parents and our community members.
And I appreciate that. One of the things we have been thinking, and I appreciate calling out first or second, because the intent is to have smaller sessions. I don't know if you remember when we were trying to get community input on how we should return to school during when we were still on lockdown, and we had what we called reopening town halls, and we had 14 in 8 days. And we did them by trustee areas, and so each trustee was able to engage. Of course, they were all in virtual because of where we were as a country. And then we also had some for certificated staff to get that perspective, for classified staff, We did town halls or communication with students. We grouped them by grades 3 through 5, gave us input, 6, 8, and then 9, 12. And then we also had some sessions that were in a second language, and we, the English speakers, were the ones with the translation sets. So that is really the goal. So I see how putting first or second, so in our minds, it was like very clear, but I appreciate that call out. The second thing, we just want to be able to coordinate with the facilitator, because the engagement sessions will be facilitated by a safety consultant expert, because talking with our WESAC PD partners and district staff, we want to be sure that we will be able to engage as listening and having safety conversations facilitated by someone whose job is all about safety, to make sure that our community is getting answers or hearing about what's happened in other districts, or giving suggestions if they have concerns. The safety consultant will be able to share what is best practices happening in other districts, in other states, in other communities. So this is more why we say preliminary, because there's some logistical pieces that we know we still have to work on.
Thank you. That was all that I.
Are there any other questions?
Again, just does that safety consultant, will they engage the community in developing the survey? Versus what they know of, and again, like to Clerk Castro's like question is like, how do we know? And a public comment, right? Like, are the questions being answered in a way that really gathers all the information in a way that is unbiased and transparent and direct?
I think that's something that the team can go back and make sure before any survey is sent, that we have had a group, students, parents, just some other eyes, because also when you're in it, you might be missing, or you might have a blind spot that somebody else could bring up. So we will ensure that before it is distributed, that we will be able to truly feel that besides district staff, besides WESAC PD, we have also had community, parents, students looking to say, is this, do we think, because we're not going, I also want to manage our expectations. The hard thing always for us as the district, when we're disseminating a survey, is we're looking at what other districts, what has been out there. You know, designing surveys is actually people's jobs in organizations and businesses. So we're doing the best with what we have, and that is reaching out and seeing what others have done. But a big part of that is making sure those who are going to be the receivers say, yep, to your best of your ability, this is it, knowing there might be some spaces that we, people will disagree with, but it is about bringing voices together and coming to consensus before we send something out.
Can I add something real quick?
Sure.
So I sat on WESAC PD's Restorative Justice Board and Advocacy Board. So the restorative justice is their measures for justice, and that is their purpose, is to gather information from victims that, that they are trying to get more information on reformative justice. So it would be helpful if Chief Strange, and I'm sure they would collaborate also with us in this as well. Because it gives really, really great information. They've tried to focus on WESAC specifically, so it would be something to ask him about for the measures for justice, and then also the WESAC PD Advocacy Board as well.
And then I have two pieces. One, I think that carries over to some of the conversations here. So I hear staff constraints about working with the police department and the timelines. But I also hear feedback about, could we condense it? And so my question is, I don't love the June 12th date because we're out of school. And so our families are out and people might be gone. So it seems reasonable to say like May 22nd, because then we're still in school. in terms of, that's the date that the recommendation would come to the board, or the data would come to the board. And so my hope is maybe you can look at that and see if the May 22nd would be feasible, knowing that then decisions like this, when we make big ones, it's nice when we don't do that when summer break begins for our families. Do you think that might be feasible in terms of that versus?
Whatever.
Okay, talk with them. And then the only other piece I wanted to speak to is, as we look at this, if we know that positions are challenging for them to have, and there might not be a position right away, then can we look at, in the interim, whatever the piece might be, maybe there's some services, like maybe some of our tier 3 families or students need some support with West Sacramento PD to do a home visit, or maybe we need some things like that. So I would hate for this to be an all or nothing when we gather all of our students and families' input. So maybe there's some ways that we can do some things like that and be creative. Okay, all right. Then if there's no others, then thank you very much. All right.
Well, the third one I think is Trustee Hunt, communication timeline.
Yes.
Yeah.
Got it.
All right, thank you. So that now takes us to the consent agenda. Are there any changes to our consent agenda? Okay, then can I have a motion?
I move.
All right, moved by Vice President Coffey
I'll second.
and seconded by Clerk Castro. All in favor?
Aye.
I too vote aye. Thank you. All right, and then as a reminder, when we move into the action items, we have removed action item P1, P2, P3, and P4. So now that takes us to action item P5, which is approval of the first interim financial report for the fiscal year 2024 to 2025, and that is with Monique Stovall, our Chief Business Officer. Welcome.
Good evening. I'm joined this evening by our Director of Fiscal Services, Billy Duba, and we are presenting the first interim financial report. I like to characterize this as, in the private sector, we call it quarterly report. So it's our first quarterly report, and it identifies, in essence, what's changed since we adopted our budget back in June. So what changed in our revenue, what changed in our expenditures, and how we anticipate that we will look at the very end of the year. As this is the first interim, we'll have a second interim, and we just inch closer and closer to our actuals as we progress throughout the year. Okay, next slide. So the purpose of tonight's meeting, presentation, will cover legal requirements, core messages, a summary of our first interim, and then an additional summary of where we think we are right now and our multi-year projections, and then our next steps. With our budget, it touches every single aspect of our strategic plan, because we do need the funding to be able to support the activities for our students and staff. Next slide. And then, of course, it aligns with every aspect of our strategy map. Next slide. We show this cycle every budget presentation. This is our annual budget cycle. It begins in June and continues throughout the year. As you can see in the grayed out areas, we've completed the adopted budget, the state enacted budget. We didn't do a 45-day revise because we did not need to. We had our unaudited actuals, which is basically our actual expenditures and revenue from the previous year. And now we're at our first interim report. Next slide. So there are legal requirements related to this reporting period. Our first interim is due to the county on December 15th, and it is the period ending from July 1 through October 31st. We ask for your approval. We also have it reviewed by the County Office of Education, and then we submit a certification to the Superintendent of Public Instruction and the state controllers. Next slide. So now I will pass it to Mr. Duba to continue the presentation.
Thank you. Good evening. Core messages, next slide. So budgets are certified as one of three different categories. They're either a positive certification, a qualified, or a negative. To be positive, you have to meet your financial obligations for the current year and the next 2 years. To be qualified, you may or may not meet the current year and 2 subsequent fiscal years. And if you're a negative certification, you're not going to meet your financial obligations. We're asking to certify this budget as a positive certification. Our budget is made using enrollment projections. We're currently working with the demographer for new projections, but we're using the same ones from the adopted budget currently. So the only change you'll see on this slide since the last time it was presented is in the 24-25 year. The first interim column is been updated with the preliminary seabeds or the enrollment gathered on the first Wednesday in October. And that's a slight increase from where we thought we would be at the adopted budget. 24 students down from last year, but slightly higher than we thought it would be. Next slide. The previous slide was how many students are enrolled with us, but we're funded on how many students show up to school every day, also called average daily attendance. The blue column shows our actual ADA, but we're funded on either the current ADA, the prior year ADA, or a 3-year average. Whichever one of those three things is higher is how we're funded. So as you can see, over the next few years, we expect our funded ADA to go down slightly. Currently, 93.4% of our students that are enrolled are showing up for school every day, which is up slightly from last year. It was at a 93.1, so we're moving in the right direction. Slide, please. Now we're going to go into a summary of our unrestricted budget. There's 2 halves to our budget. There's an unrestricted side and a restricted side. The restricted budget is monies we receive for a specific purpose. They have a restricted use. And then we have the unrestricted budget, which is our main pot that we use for everything else. Looking at the unrestricted budget first, some revenue changes, expense changes, and other changes. In revenue, we updated our local control funding formula revenue. That changes frequently based on current rates, COLAs, enrollment ADA, stuff like that. That's our main source of income. It's Prop 98 funding. We also increased our projected revenue from interest that we receive on money that we hold in the bank. So we have money in a bank, it accrues interest. Over the last couple of years, we've been receiving more than we had in prior years. So we've been working closely with the county treasurer and watching it. And at this time, we felt comfortable increasing what we thought we would receive this year. Our expenses, we went through the budgets in great detail over the last couple of months. We looked at historical trends, even including years pre-COVID, to see where we are at this time of year and how we end up at the end of the year. So we're looking at how our actuals end up in every year. We're going to try and make it so that by the end of the year, by June, what's budgeted is what we spend. So we also adjusted budgets for like salaries and benefits. We matched them to our position control because our budget, the adopted budget, was made in May and June, as Monique said. And we've hired people, we've lost people since then, so we have to match what we have budgeted to what people are actually being paid. We looked at trends for substitute budgets, overtime budgets, extra hour budgets. So we went through everything and made adjustments where we were comfortable. Then we looked at materials and supplies and services and adjusted those as appropriate as well. For other changes, we assigned the commitment of the ending fund balance that we spoke of in the unaudited actuals in September. That was moving $16.25 million to our Fund 17, which is a budget stabilization reserve fund, money that we're saving to help meet our spending needs in future years. And we transferred in some money from Fund 20, which is our other post-employment benefits fund, and that's to help cover the cost of our retirees' benefits. Next slide, please. These are the numbers associated with those changes that I just spoke about. We have a description of the account. We have the adopted budget column, first interim column, and then the variance is the change from June, where we thought our budget would be, to October 31st. So revenues, we are now projecting higher revenue than we did in the adopted budget in June. And that is, like I said, primarily due to the interest that we expect to receive. Our expenses went from 86.7 million down to 81.6, so we were able to reduce what we thought we would spend by 5 million. That gives us a surplus of 19.5 million. That means we are bringing in more money than we're spending. And that's before we make contributions to other funds, like our total other sources and uses. So as you can see, there's 33 million that we're transferring out, and that's moving money from the unrestricted budget over to the restricted budget to help pay for things like special education and our restricted maintenance account. That's also where you would see the 16.25 million that was transferred to the budget stabilization fund. So that gives us a net decrease to our fund balance of 13.47 million. So we're going from 29 million to start this school year, and we think we're going to end this school year in June with $15.9 million, which is higher than we thought we would be when we brought the adopted budget. Mario? Okay, so the restricted budget. This is the time of year when we set up the budget for some of restricted programs from last year that we didn't completely spend. A lot of the title programs, we leave the budget till the very end of the year. We don't know how we're going to finish last year until September when we do the unaudited actuals. So that's at the time we were able to set up budget for those programs in the 24-25 year. So some of the budgets that we didn't finish spending in 23-24 that we're allowed to move to this year, we moved. So you'll see increases in expenditures for that. We also went through the restricted budget the same way we did the unrestricted budget, looking at all the salary lines, balancing it to our position control, and then we went through historical trends for the expenditures. Next slide, please, Mario. Looking at those numbers, as you can see, our expenses went up in the restricted side. That's bringing in those restricted programs that we didn't finish spending. We're going to spend them this year. So we're at $58.5 million in expenses for the budget now. Still bringing in around 31.2 million. There's a contribution from unrestricted. That's the money we're bringing in from the unrestricted side into the restricted budget to cover special education costs and our restricted routine maintenance. Overall, we are looking to decrease the restricted budget by $10 million. So we'll be going from 22.5 million down to 12.5 million on our restricted side. This slide is our multi-year projection for our unrestricted budget. We're required to do the current year plus 2 additional years, and we always project a third year as well. The 24-25 column is the same numbers that I just talked about a couple slides ago. As you see in the middle section there, there's the budget stabilization contribution of 16.25 million. That's transferring out of the unrestricted budget into Fund 17 for future year use. We also have that contribution to special education and restricted routine maintenance, 17.26 million for the 25-26 school year. Then you see the contribution increasing to 21.7 million in 25-26, 22 million in 26-27, and 22.9 million in 27-28 school year. That's just our increase in special education costs. At the very bottom, we have an ending fund balance percent. The state requires us, a district of our size, to have a 3% reserve. The board requires an additional 3%, so we always try and or want that bottom row of percents to be over 6%. As you can see in 26-27 and 27-28, we are at 6.15% those years. And that is because in that budget stabilization contribution line that's in the red box, we're bringing money back in. Of the 16.25 that we're transferring out, we're bringing it back in 26-27, 500,000, and in 27-28, we have to bring in 6 million, just so that we stay above that 6%. This is just a multi-year projection. It's based on what we know now. These change very frequently. Next slide, please. In summary, our unrestricted budget is in a deficit spending trend. And as I said, we're using the budget stabilization funds to make that 6% in the 26-27, 27-28 school year. A reserve of 6% covers just about 1 month of personnel costs. It's using the current cost of our salaries and benefits. 1 month is 8.2 million. A 6% reserve on our current budget is 9.3 million, so it's just over 1 month. In 26-27, the unrestricted personnel costs do increase by 1.5 million. That's bringing the one-time funded positions into our budget on that year. And we are continuing to evaluate our expenses, see how we could better align them with our revenue. All right. Our next steps. Tonight, we're requesting board approval of our first interim report. In January, when the governor releases his budget, we will analyze that as well. And we're going to continue to monitor and refine our budget. The next time we present the budget will be in January. We'll talk about the audit reports and then the governor's budget proposal. All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Do we have any public comments?
No public.
Okay, then do we have any board or student board member comments? Have a great night. We appreciate you. Thanks for staying. All right, board comments. Or questions?
I have a couple questions.
Okay. So to Trustee Hunt.
Hi, thank you. Can we go to slide 13, please? Okay. Unrestricted budget. I had a couple of questions on the expenses. It's reducing by $5 million based on the projection. In the detailed information you guys gave, I think the majority of that was like books and supplies or something. What is, like, that seems like a really big gap. What is the bulk of that when we say books and supplies? Just curious.
So books and supplies is everything from literally pens and pencils to it could be technology, it could be computers, it could be a variety of things. Going through the budget there in our conversations with our department heads, there were some small changes, maybe $25,000 where they thought from last year, and mind you, they set up their budget last year when they didn't even know what their actual expenses were. And so they set up their budget thinking that maybe they needed $50,000 or even $500,000, but then they were able to identify, you know what? We only need $100,000 in this budget line because we have what we need and we know that we're going to be able to support our students with this amount of budget. So it was a variety of changes within the budget. A large area where we did have a reduction, in a specific budget, was in our LCAP. We were able to reduce the budget more than others, not because we are not supporting our students, just things are not as expensive as we anticipated.
And then for the first interim number at the 81 million, is that the projection based on what they've spent through October? Or just takes into accountability what we've spent this year or even like our prior year projections?
It's based upon what we have spent from July through October 31st.
Okay.
However, we do look at historical trends. So we definitely wouldn't say, we typically spend 80 million in expenses, we're going to make that 65 million. we won't do that. But we're looking at what we're seeing from history, but we're also taking into account inflation. We know that things are going to get more expensive, and so we add those factors on there as well.
Okay, one last question. When we say total other sources, we're moving 33 million out. Does it go to other things besides special education when we look at the restricted budget? I'm just curious.
Yes.
Or do we need to move that much just for special education?
It goes to other things. So if we can go a few slides to slide 16. So here we try to identify some of the areas in that other sources. And so you have a transfer in and you have a transfer out that gets us to that 33 million. So we transfer in the other post-employment benefits, the OPEB. That is out of a fund that the board approved us to put money in, and we need to use that money to be able to cover our retiree benefits, to be able to help stabilize our budget. And then we have what we call the transfer outs. And so you'll see the budget stabilization, we transferred out into a Fund 17, a completely different bucket. And then we also have, for the contributions to restricted, that's special education and what's called routine restricted maintenance, or RMAs, sometimes what we call it. And that is 3% of our expenditures to help support maintenance, so our custodians, et cetera.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? Trustee Wong?
I think just transparent, you can stay on this slide, is that we are creating a budget stabilization fund because we are I want to be super clear about this because it was very clear that in 26, 27, and 27, 28, we were deficit spending. We were spending more than we have in revenue. And that's why we had the boxes highlighted like that, super clear, that we are spending more than we have.
We are deficit spending now.
Right.
And because we have our reserve, which are the money in reserve is one-time money, we do not need to supplement from our budget stabilization fund until 26, 27. In 26, 27, based upon the information we have now, so as Billy shared, it changes. This is based upon data through October, and we're now in December. Based upon that information, if we did not transfer in 500,000, we would not meet the board's required 6%. The following year, if we did not transfer in 6 million, we would not meet the state required 3%.
So we need
Exactly.
6 million to do the state required.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But that's because we're taking 16 million out now.
No, I just want to be clear that we're still, the practice is still deficit spending, and that we are because of our spending trends, and then there's future, as long as, again, one-time things are one time, there's ongoing expenditures that we need to be thinking about going through a budget exercise, right?
Absolutely. So the only way we are not negative, if we go back to the beginning of the presentation, we have positive, certified, and negative, is, that we may not be negative in the future years is because we were able to put that 16 plus million into our reserves. I like to call it our savings account. So we can pull a little bit out of our savings account to protect us in the future years based upon what we know right now. But we have to stabilize our budget. We have to make those decisions so that we are able to continue to support our students and staff, because that 16 million can go very, very quick. And as mentioned earlier by Trustee Wong, this presentation does not include any unknowns. We don't know what's going to happen in the world in the future. This does not include any additional compensation for our staff.
Right.
It does not include a variety of things. So things will change. And we have to make sure that we're taking action now to be able to protect us in the future. I also want to note, though, we are a great district. We have had a great history of financial responsibility, and we want to continue that great history of financial stability and responsibility, and we need to take those actions now. That's part of the reason why Billy and I went much deeper than we normally do and historically have gone at the first interim, to have those really deep conversations with our directors to say, what are you actually going to spend? That way we have a better idea where we are going to land at the end of the school year, so we can be as precise as possible on where we are financially.
So again, we do this for, again, positive certification that is budget year plus 2, or
Yes.
current year plus, budget year plus 1, actually. And you add the third, which is really appreciated. 27, 28, and beyond. So we're not even looking at that. But the truth is, like, if that's $6 million in 27, that's not chump change.
Correct.
And that 16.5, to your point, is going to go fast. Because if 27, 28, 28, 29, like, we are people, hopefully our people will be here more than 4 or 5 years, right? And we have our staff to take care of, we have healthcare benefits. Like, I just want to be super transparent about what this is. It's not, we shouldn't take it lightly as though we will always have it, because we won't, and we will face a cliff at some point,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
I want to be super clear with the public, like, we will face a cliff. Because $6
Definitely.
million is not chump change.
We go back to slide 16. To emphasize it, looking at our beginning balance and our ending balance, that ending balance, 15.9, 12.7, 8.2, 8.1, and the 8.1, 6 million of that is our budget stabilization. And so we're having those conversations now to make sure that we're okay in the future. We have to have those conversations.
I have a
Vice
question.
President Coffey?
Okay, so I'm gonna be the trustee who is gonna need to be walked through these unrestricted budget review numbers and restricted budget review page. So page 13, or your slide 13. Thank you, Mario, for going back and forth. You're appreciated. So here, I understood that we have our revenues, our expenses, what our surplus, we're saying it's positive, right? The 19, I'm trying to remember. It's not red, so that means we're good.
Good.
This total other sources uses, such as contributions to special education, that 33 first interim column, 33 mil, we said we're moving from the unrestricted to a restricted source, right? This is where I am trying to make connections. I look at the next slide 15. I don't see 33, so I'm kind of wondering where that money went, because it went from 33 mil to 17 or 27. So help me understand, for somebody who's like, okay, well, we said we're going to move it to restricted, and now I'm looking at the restricted budget overview, and I don't see that number. Where did they go?
Fantastic question. I am so happy you asked this, because this isn't what we speak about often in budget presentations. We talk about unrestricted, we talk about restricted. We don't talk about the fact that this is, I'm going to go into budget speak, this is Fund 1, unrestricted and restricted. We also have Fund 9, Fund 13, Fund 17, Fund 20, et cetera. So Fund 1 is our general fund, and that's what we live by. That is our main fund. Fund 13 is our cafeteria fund. It's what our food services uses to be able to do all of the work they do, okay? Where we get to the 33 million, that 16 million goes into Fund 17. So if we talk about Fund 01, our general fund, and that's where we do the majority of our business. Fund 17, we move the money into Fund 17, which is appropriate. Billy, I don't remember the special reserve? Special reserve fund, so that we are able to put it in a restricted area. So when we need it, we are able to use it.
Even though it's restricted?
It is restricted. Yes, it's restricted for It's a restricted fund set by the board.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Okay. And so if we go to slide 16, maybe?
Yeah.
Yes. And so that's where you have that 16.25 million. And that 16.25 is going to that Fund 17.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I was like, man, I know you know this answer, but you guys speak it in layman terms for me because I'm over here punching numbers and these numbers don't add up. And I
Literally,
know.
she has her calculator out.
That's what we're here for.
Why you gotta call me out? Okay, that was all I had.
I have my calculator out here too.
I have
That's
a
it.
question. It might seem like a stupid question, but
Not
I want to go back
at
to
all.
Trustee Wong's point. Are we going to start looking at our projected budget now and how we avoid having to dump so much money into the other area?
Yes, yes. So this is our quarterly report, and this is a standard reporting period. What I love about our district, and this is the first district I've been in that does this, is after the governor releases his budget proposal in January, and we get a kind of a outlook or kind of a forecast of what things might look like, in late January, early February, we have a budget study session, and we get deep into the budget. And that's where we start having conversations. I want to be clear, though, that major decisions and all of our decisions are not made at that time. Decisions will be made throughout the year and at different points. We will need to come back to you for guidance on a variety of things to be able to stabilize our budget, and we'll also come with recommendations. That's our role.
Okay. I have just two pieces, and one, we did have our subcommittee meeting on the budget, so I appreciate lots of time with you both. And I just wanted to share one piece with the board, for example, and that is there's a learning block recovery grant right now, and I know you have all the details, but just to give one in the weeds thing, it does run out in 2028. We're using it to help offset some of our special education costs, but the allowable uses of that is changing. So we're taking it out because we don't know what we can do with that 4 million. So maybe we can play with numbers and use it for what we're already doing. Maybe there's something new that we have to do, but did I summarize that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. So we're hoping that that's $4 million that only until 2028 that we could maybe use some way still to offset what we're already doing. And then the other piece for us, I think that's important, is we do have that budget study session in February. And I think you did mention that this budget here has all of the one-time positions rolled into it. And so this board is going to really need to talk about all of those one-time positions. They were approved as, they were approved with the idea that we knew that that money was running out, but they are currently in this budget. And so that is going to need to be a conversation of this board, I think, absolutely at that time. Okay, anything else? All right, well then, thank you both so much.
Action?
Yes.
I move to adopt the first
Oh,
intro.
that's right, we have to.
It's been a while.
It's been a long night and we have a long way to go. So, yeah, we should adopt that for you. Okay, so did we get a motion that I missed? Was that trustee
I think that
Wong?
was
Trustee Wong, and then did I have a second?
a second.
Okay, second from Vice President Coffey. All in favor?
Aye.
I too vote aye. Thank you so much. Okay, now we have the approval of the contract with Switzer Stoke Enterprises, Inc., and that is Pro Builders for the YOLO ADA upgrade projects, again with Monique Stovall.
Thank you. I'm here again. Now with our Director of Facilities, Construction and Planning, Dan Banowitz, to speak to this item and the next few items. At this time, we are asking for your approval for a contract with,
Schweitzer Stock.
can you please say that in the?
It's Schweitzer Stock, and they do business as, Pro Builders.
Thank you for saying that name properly. And so we are embarking on an incredibly important project at our YOLO High School. There are 80 areas that are not ADA accessible, and we need to make that right. We need to fix it. And so our facilities team went out to bid for bidders to be able to do that work. Schweizer Stock, thank you, was the lowest bid, and we request your approval to enter into a contract with them to perform the duties and the ADA improvements at YOLO.
Are there any public comments on this item?
No public comment?
Okay, any board questions?
I just have one. My one question is, once this becomes approved, or not, I mean, depending, will we have a realistic timeline of when this is going to be done? Because I'm not trying to say, oh, it's approved, and then 2 years from now it gets done. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it took about that long for a wall.
Yes, and so I know Dana's going to share. As we've shared at many meetings, there are a lot of unknowns in construction, a lot. And I'll admit, and Dan knows that I do this because I'm a very transparent person, Dan will tell me 2 weeks, and I will say a month. Because there's, whether it's weather, we get into the ground and we find that the irrigation isn't where the map says the irrigation is. And so we will do our best to have a realistic timeline. One of our previous maintenance and operations directors used to say, under promise and over deliver. Okay,
So we actually are scheduled to meet with the construction team tomorrow. And if this is approved, I won't cancel that meeting. We'll keep it. But we wanted to get ahead of this, but there's a lot of coordination that needs to be done because one of the items on the scope of this is the restrooms, right? There's the 2 very small restrooms that we're going to make into one ADA compliant room. So if we're going to do that during the school year, we have to work this out with the site. And we actually met with Noe again today. To come up, we might bring in a portable, not porta potties, but one of the bathroom trailers, something that we can have there during the project at for the time. I don't have a schedule just yet, but that is something that will start tomorrow if approved, and then we'll make sure to share that with everybody.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, just for public transparency, Fund 40? What is it? We're used to doing Measure Z, Measure
Yes.
whatever. So just for transparency,
Yes.
as people are listening, what is Fund 40?
Fund 40. I can't remember the name, but it is a facilities fund that we have the ability, you have the ability to designate funding to go into that particular fund to be able to support facilities-related project. Another fund is Fund 14, which is our deferred maintenance fund. And up until this year, we have been able to transfer some of our ending balance into that particular fund that's allowing us to be able to do these jobs.
And it's good because we had deferred maintenance for so long that our campuses look the way they do now.
Yes, yes.
But not necessarily, not a judgment. We did it for classrooms and for teachers and a number of other things. But
Yeah, thank you.
I think, and I appreciate this and the urgency and idea. It is really hard when we have, as you know, staff members who really need accessible spaces and they don't have it. And the law is in place so that they shouldn't have to ask for it, but we still have such high facility needs that it can be a hard thing. So I really appreciate this. I'm really glad you have a meeting tomorrow so that we can move this forward because it is desperately needed. And then as you look into whatever you need to use in the time being for a bathroom, because you're right, there's not a lot of bathroom spaces there, is obviously that it's an ADA accessible situation that we have there. So, okay.
I'm ready to move once we're ready.
Okay, so we have moved by Vice President Coffey
I second.
and seconded by Trustee Wong. All in favor?
Aye.
I too
Aye.
vote aye. Thank you. Okay. And you are staying there because we have the approval of the change order number 1 and 2 with Broco Constructors, Inc. for the River City High School asphalt project at River City High School. So again, with Monique Stovall, our Chief Business Officer, and our Director, Dan Vanderbilt.
Okay, So we have here, these are some change orders that are, previously the board had approved a contract with Burco Constructors to replace the asphalt, the exterior basketball asphalt at River City High School at the board meeting held on September 12th. The original contract value was $438,000. It was funded by Measure V and the State Facilities Program matching funds. As Monique mentioned earlier, when we got into the ground, there were some things that were found and that created a need to make some changes throughout the project. Typically, in a project that we have, we'll have allowances or contingencies in this, but on these smaller ones, we typically don't do that. So that's why you have these change orders here this evening. One of them was for irrigation that was needed to be changed to make it more efficient and work with the new asphalt area that we had out there. Another was a concrete walkway that connected the existing concrete walkway and the exterior basketball courts. So people coming from the parking lot have an easier way to get to the tennis courts when they're watching their students play and that type of thing. So that's what these two change orders are for.
I have a general question.
Can I ask quickly if we have any public comments? No public comments? Okay, Clerk Castro.
With the change orders, what is the process with, there should be, who's our project manager for Washington Unified School District? Is it you?
Well, it's a team effort. It's myself and also Daniel Gandara, who's our facilities analyst.
Okay.
He was running this project himself. And so, but they all, everything, you know, we work together on. And none of these happen without our approval.
The change orders?
Yeah, the change orders, none of that work happens, anything over what's been approved, nothing happens without our written approval.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, then can I get a motion? Okay. Moved by trustee Wong, seconded by trustee Hunt. All in favor?
Aye.
I too vote aye.
And that's actually a big, like, area to walk, so I was like, 17? But it makes sense because it is really thick as well as very large, so it's a lot of concrete.
That takes us now to action item 8, approval of the final change order with XL Construction, Inc., and the notice of completion for the Westfield Village School Modernization Project. Again, with Monique Stovall, our Chief Business Officer, and Director Dan Banowitz.
Okay, so back in June of 2022, the board approved resolution number 2122-41 to enter into the leaseback contract with XL Construction for the Measure V project, Westfield Village Modernization Project. On October 22nd, the board approved the contract with XL Construction for the pre-construction services. And then again, April 27th of 2023, approved the final guaranteed maximum price and the construction contract with XL Construction. So we are requesting the board approve the final change order and notice of completion for the project. The Westfield Village Modernization Project was successfully completed July 30th of 2024. The project was delivered under budget, on schedule, with final construction costs of $33,389,727.34, which is $142,022.64 under the budget. So as a result, that $142,000 will be returned to the Measure V program budget through the final change order. The notice of completion reflects the completion of the Public Works project and will be recorded with the county.
Thank you. Are there any public comments? Public comment? Okay, can you say one more time the amount of money that was saved on this project?
It was $142,022.64.
Thank you. Okay, any board questions or comments?
Nope.
Okay, can I get a motion?
I move.
I second to take back our money.
Yeah.
That seems like a reasonable thing to approve.
All right, motion made by Clerk Castro, seconded by trustee Wong. All in favor?
Aye.
I too vote aye. All right. You are.
Is this the only thing we have left of Measure V then?
Measure V
Our
is
balance
over.
of Measure
Yes,
V. So now we have to, so it's over, but now we have $142.
This was Measure
This
V.
is different measure.
V, I'm
This
sorry, I
is
heard it
V,
different.
yes. Measure V
If only we
is
had that
all
much money
spent.
from the old, the bond that never stops giving.
Yeah, so Dr. Hildreth also heard V as in Victor, so it was not just,
We,
The item says
I
Measure Z.
apologize. It's a common
The-
mistake of
Right, the
ours.
item says Measure Z, so,
That's
yes.
good.
So your presentation was V, so I'm like, okay.
Measure Z.
Measure Z.
Okay.
Thanks for the clarification.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you both. That now takes us to action item 9, and that is approval of the certificate of variable term waiver, and that is with Shay Borges, our Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources. Welcome.
Thank you, President Kirby Gonzalez, trustees. Welcome to our new board members, and Dr. Hildreth, and of course, our fans. Tonight, I'm here to ask the board to approve a variable term waiver. A variable term waiver allows a waiver holder additional time to complete their credential requirements as determined by the California Commission on Teaching Credentials, CTC. We use the variable term waiver to support an employee who may need additional time completing their credential. Therefore, HR is asking that the board approve the submission of the waiver to CTC to allow the waiver holder to complete their job responsibilities for their school year.
Okay, are there any public comments?
No public comment?
Okay, any comments or questions from the board? And can we have a motion?
I move.
Okay. Okay, moved by trustee Hunt, seconded by trustee Wong. All in favor?
Aye.
I too vote aye. Thank you. Okay, that takes us to action item 10, which is the approval of non-public school student contract with Mountain Valley Child and Family Services, Inc. for the 2024-2025 school year, and that is with Audrey Streak, our Assistant Superintendent of Educational Service.
I think we have just gotten some new information, and we need to request to pull this item
Okay.
from the action list. The board, we just got some information.
Okay, so we'd like to just pull this completely. We're not moving it
Yes.
to later?
Just pull it completely.
Okay.
Yes.
Do we have to motion to change the,
I motion to table this item.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. Okay, so motion to table made by trustee Wong,
a second?
seconded by Vice President Coffey. All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye. Thank you. I think that was you. Okay, but you are still there because now we are going to the approval, action item number 11, the approval of the non-public school student contracts at Odyssey Learning for the 2024-2025 school year.
Good evening. Thank you, President Kirby Gonzalez, and good evening, trustees and superintendent. Tonight, I'm joined by Director Carla Salvo, who leads our Special Services Department, and she will be able to elaborate on what we are asking for on this item.
Good evening, board members and everyone who's left tonight. So for this specific contract is for a non-public school contract that as a district, we have obligation under IDEA, which is Individuals with Disabilities Act, to provide free and appropriate public education, and the needs and the services that the student has requires a non-public school placement. So that is the request for tonight.
Okay, are there any public comments?
Public comment?
Are there any board comments or
Two
questions?
No.
Okay, then is there a motion?
I move.
Okay, moved by Vice President Coffey,
Second.
seconded by Clerk Castro, and all in favor?
Aye.
I too vote aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we have the approval of the 2025 California State Athletic Directors Conference, and that is April 9th through 13th of 2025 in Reno, Nevada. And again, Audrey Streak, our Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services.
Thank you. Tonight, I'm requesting approval for 2 staff members to attend an out-of-state conference in spring. One would be our athletic director at River City High School, as well as the assistant principal who is over athletics at the high school. This is an opportunity for them to learn what's new and different in rules and regulations as it relates to school athletics. And so the fiscal impact is $2,600 for both employees to participate in this learning experience.
Are there any public comments?
Public comment?
Okay, any board comments or questions?
I have one.
Okay, Vice President Coffey?
So it says here the financial impact is paid from the site funds. Just to make sure I'm understanding, that means River City High School is actually paying for this. This is just an approval in the sense of formality so that, right? I know, but I'm just saying for the fact of like where the financial impact is coming from. is what
Yes, it's paid for using site funds, and we're here asking for approval because it's an out-of-state
Out-of-state.
conference, yes.
That was all. I just wanted to make
Yep.
sure.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. Can I get a motion then?
I move.
Okay, moved by Vice President Coffey.
I second.
Okay, seconded by Trustee Hunt. All in favor?
Aye.
I too vote aye. Thank you. All right, so now that takes us to action item 13, the approval of the 2025 National Elementary and Secondary Education Act, which is ESEA Conference, February 19th to 21st in Austin, Texas. And again, with Autry Street, our
Yes.
Assistant Superintendent.
Thank you. This is a second request for 3 district office administrators to attend an out-of-state conference. In particular, this conference really is about Title I funds, and we know that those rules and laws change pretty quickly. And so this is an opportunity for our fiscal services director, our director who's responsible for compliance and accountability, as well as our director of English learners to participate in the Learning Experience National Conference in Austin, Texas. It's not offered anywhere closer. It's a national conference, and so the location changes each year. And so the fiscal impact is $3,600 per attendee for a total of $10,800 to be paid from budgeted Title I funds.
Are there any public comments?
No public comment?
Okay, any board comments or questions?
I have one
You have one?
question.
Yeah, sure. Trustee Hunt?
Or comment, I guess. Question. When we attend these conferences at any staff level, do we have some sort of accountability loop? Like, let's come back and report what we would like to implement into the district and how we plan to do that?
Yes, we absolutely do. And anyone who attends any conference, whether it's in-state or local, the expectation is that you come back and you share your learning. And this would be no different than that.
Okay.
And we're excited to come back to you in January, at the January meeting, to share how first semester learning experiences and professional development have impacted how we do our jobs daily.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions? Okay, then can I get a motion? I will move. Can I get a second?
Good second.
I'll second.
We were looking at each
All
other.
right. Did I get a second here?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I made the motion to approve. Vice President Coffey seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
I too vote aye. And whew, a lot of action items that we've
Thank
made
you.
it
Have
through
a,
on this.
that's it for me.
Kirby Gonzalez, I have one request. I needed or would like to have made an introduction after the consent agenda, but I didn't. So if we could pivot,
Yes, let's pivot.
if that's okay with you. So I'd like to take this opportunity on the consent agenda. There was, per trustee vote, there was approval for a new director of equity, diversity, and inclusion who happens to still be here. So June Marie Flores, who is currently was currently our student leadership and empowerment coordinator, also taking on community schools, is going to be our new director of EDI. We're very excited for her passion and her vision for students, her relationship with staff and parents, and really her vision on equity, excellence, and empowerment for every student every day. She lives and breathes that in her daily work, and we're excited to bring her on board to the team. So June, if you could stand up, if you want to say anything, this is your opportunity.
At the microphone.
At the
so
mic.
People watching will love to hear you.
But I have heels on today, so I'm actually
We don't have to lower it that much.
not as much as usual. I just wanted to take the time to say thank you to all of you and to the WSD family, and to all those who are watching online. I love this district. I love our students, and I am just overwhelmed with joy to be trusted with this position. And I know we'll be doing many, many beautiful things for our students. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, thank you for that. We're very lucky to have you here. All right, and now to our board governance, and that is item number 1 is the approval of the resolution number 2425-36, which is in support of a safe haven for all students and families. Dr. Hildreth, our superintendent.
Thank you, trustees, for your request to ensure that we can bring back to the front this support of this district in being a safe haven for all of our students and our families. We know that many of our students and many of our parents have expressed concerns whenever there is change. And as we ensure that our mission does not change, and our mission is to support all students, all families. I've heard since I got in this district how important the beauty of the diversity is in Washington Unified and in West Sacramento, and reminding ourselves that diversity is not just who we are, who we look like. It's a diverse thought in our community as well. And so we know that some of our students hear things, or social media can be great, or social media cannot be great. And so there is concern that with change, what does that mean for some in our community? And by bringing forward this safe haven for all students and families, it's really a public commitment for trustees to let our community know that Washington Unified is a place that's safe and welcoming. It's inclusive for all of our students and families, regardless of their immigration status, their ethnicity, their race, their religion, their sexual orientation, or their ability, their sex and gender identity, their socioeconomic status, or their beliefs. It's a resolution that really reaffirms the dedication to students' privacy, promoting tolerance, and ensuring that all students who choose us for education know that they have an equal access to education by declaring our schools as safe havens, and hoping that with what little control we have, we can, one, alleviate fear, alleviate anxiety for the students and families in our community. This resolution also outlines specific actions the district will take to uphold these principles and protect students' rights in alignment with state and federal laws.
Thank you. Are there any public comments? No public comments. Okay, board comments or questions?
I just appreciate you taking on this request and dusting off, as I said when I requested this last time, that who knows what's going to happen Jan 20th. Whether or not I have kids in this district, I love all the students in this district, and I care about them deeply. And I am fearful, and it keeps me up at night. What could happen in the next 4 years. I am proud of our district. I was proud in 2016. I'm proud now that this is not just about inclusion, it's about protection and honoring those families who have struggled like my family, those immigrants who have sacrificed to be here, to be in Washington Unified, so that their children can be educated safely. that we recognize the sacrifices of their ancestors and that they stand on the shoulders of giants and warriors who have allowed them to be here today with our district. And I'm so proud of us that we did it in 2016 and we're doing it again now. Because that's ultimately what we need to be thinking about and focused on. Our students first. So that's all I wanted to say.
Any other? No? Okay. It is a gift that we have this. We have done it, and we were able to bring it out and share it with our families and not need to take any time and have swift action. So thank you very much for that. And I know that these communications go out to our families, and so this is an important one that everybody now has in their tool belt to know what.
I forgot to say, and I move when the time's ready.
All right, so the motion was made eloquently by Trustee Wong.
And I will second.
And is seconded by Vice President Coffey. This is I'm going to do a roll call vote because it's a resolution. So Vice President Coffey.
Aye.
Clerk Castro.
Aye.
Trustee Wong.
Aye.
And Trustee Hunt.
Aye.
And I too vote aye. Okay, and now that takes us to Q2, which under board governance is the approval to authorize reimbursements for substitute and administrative costs for trustee release time under Education Code 44987.3. Dr. Hildreth.
Thank you again, President Kirby Gonzalez. I'm bringing this forward with a request for trustees to authorize the district to reimburse for substitute cost or administrative cost for trustee release time, which is allowable under Ed Code 4497.3 with prior notification and request by a trustee's employer. And we recently discovered by information received from other districts, as we always are sharing best practices, that Ed Code 44987.3 permits certificated employees, including public school teachers, to serve on education boards with up to 20 days of paid leave per school year. So to comply with state requirements, we're asking that the board agree in advance to reimburse employers for compensation paid to substitutes and actual administrative costs incurred for release time associated with board service. And this allows us to be transparent to the community and making sure that we are following our Ed Code.
Are there any public comments?
No public comment?
Okay, and in full transparency, I am the person that this applies to because I am a teacher. But it would move forward and make this allowable for any trustee moving forward who falls into the requirements. And I had never known about this, and I had never asked for to utilize it. I always used, I took a reduction in my contract to do board work. But having this available means that things like a CSBA conference are limited, then the district can release. And this is what other trustees do across our state who are also in the same situation. And even though this is personal for this statement, not necessarily this approval, I have no sub costs, so there's big savings.
It would have been nice to know all those other years when you had subcosts.
I know, back then when I took a 20% pay cut. But in any case, so this is not that. This is a very small amount of 3 days that are not, no sub pay. But moving forward, it would support anyone on the board. Okay, so no other questions or comments? So can I get a motion?
I move.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, moved by Vice President
Fast
Sidney
enough.
Coffey, seconded by Trustee Wong. All in favor?
Aye.
I too vote aye. Thank you. Okay, now that takes us to our board and superintendent comments. Dr. Hildreth.
Good evening, trustees, staff, community. I want to start with excitement for the Golden Bell, and I know some trustees might talk about it more, but I really want to highlight and thank all of the staff who made it possible for us to receive a Golden Bell Award by the California School Boards Association earlier this month. We received recognition for our district-wide student attendance and re-engagement strategies, and we know that attendance is something that is supported at every single site. And so this really is a district-wide celebration. We were just honored to be the face of the district, but when we were there accepting the award, we had everyone in our hearts and in our minds for making attendance a focus, not just a focus because we get ADA, but we know the importance of being at school, not only for instruction, but for safety. And knowing where, for parents, knowing where your children are safe, a minimum of 6 hours a day, and they're having meals, and they're getting adult support, and they're interacting with peers. And so this really is, this is the first time in over 12 years that we have gotten this level of recognition. The last Golden Bell we received was in 2012, and that was for the a TAL program, the Adult Learning Program for students. We're going to search for the bell. So we do have a bell, and we are going to put it in a display case so everybody can see, but just want to highlight and say publicly thank you to everyone who helped us get that level of recognition. I also want to express my thanks to everyone who, especially Director Flores, for our Kwanzaa celebration last Friday. It was vibrant, it was joyful, as we came to honor the rich traditions of Kwanzaa, and grateful for the support from our staff and families who attended, from the entertainment, from just understanding what Kwanzaa is about. We want to thank Yolo County Superintendent Garth Lewis. He also attended. Mayor Guerrero was there. So it really was not just us, but it was truly about community, and a great way to start the new year, embracing diversity and fostering a sense of community for all of our students. I want to highlight that we have a new partnership with Sac State, and it is guaranteed admissions for our seniors here in Washington Unified who apply and meet certain criteria. And so right now, we have approximately 240 seniors who have received letters from Sac State informing them of their conditional admission for fall 2025. And so we're so excited about that. And I do want to thank one of our parents, Patrice Griffith. It's a connection she had to help launch this. And Assistant Superintendent Austri Streak has now been in conversations with Sac State and starting those partnerships, and we're looking forward to establishing more with UC Davis and our community colleges. So our seniors are very excited, as well as their parents, and so that is such a great thing for our future Hornets. We had a wonderful, speaking of partnerships, we had a great partnership on Saturday in the pouring rain with West Sac Police Department with Shop with a Cop. And that is a special event where we have 30 of our youth in our schools who are able to partner with West Sac PD, Yolo County Sheriff, and they get to give, because that's really what ends up happening. It's a shopping spree at Walmart where students are partnered with a cop and they're able to buy whatever they have in terms of their limit. But the beautiful thing about it is not just the relationships, because that's what it's about, allowing our students to interact with our law enforcement who work so hard to keep us safe, but just seeing up close and personal with someone in uniform is different. And so this experience allowed them to just talk like regular people, take pictures, have food. But the beauty of it is our students understand the holidays. And why I say that is that a lot of the students were shopping use their gift to buy presents for their families. And some would get a few things for themselves, but others would say, you know, this is for my mom or my sister or my cousin, my dad. And then there was nothing for them. And then when we would say, well, what about you? And then they said, I don't need anything. And that's when you know that they understand the power of giving. And so Shop with a Cop is just one of the best experiences, of course, for students, but just for me, it's just who we are. So just a shout out to all of our student services team, our youth outreach, our social workers, our family school liaisons, our directors who make that happen every year, and of course, our partnership with our law enforcement community. We really, really appreciate you. In thinking about who else I appreciate our students. So I have the amazing opportunity every other month to speak with students at my superintendent advisory. And so today, I don't even know what day it is. Today. It was today, okay. Today, I was able to talk to our River City High School students. And they are selected by staff who nominate them. So even though it's the advisory, it is not just students in leadership, because leaders look different. It doesn't mean you're in leadership. You have a voice, you have a presence, you're willing to speak up. And so being able to hear from students, we gave them some topics of concern that they want to focus on, like social justice or mental health or time management. And they talked about how school impacts them on a day-to-day basis. I asked them 2 questions. I asked them, they're not only speaking for themselves as River City High School students, they're speaking for their peers, and they're speaking for K-8, because most of them came through our system, or they have siblings or family members. And so the questions that I asked them are, for example, how do you experience school? That question, they give a variety of things that just tells you everybody does not experience school the same. And from them hearing how they experience school, and then I also asked them, how would you describe the culture of your school and the culture of your district? And we'll be getting into more of some of the things that was shared, but my takeaway was having the safe haven resolution and having the human dignity policy are 2 areas of support from the board that we're going to be able to go back and really utilize differently to make change. So the last thing I'll say on this from the students, because there were new students who we were talking about how the Be the Change hate speech campaign came up last year. And so those who were on it last year were talking about it and they thought it was good, but they said, we can't stop there. So one student said last year was Be the Change. This year needs to be Do the Change. So it is about action that our students are seeing when they talk about their day-to-day experience as a student that I am listening to, and will be thinking about how to make sure students are all getting what they need emotionally and in the classroom. And in that, I'm grateful for ending this fall semester on Thursday at 12:25. I know we all of our staff work so hard year-round, and even though we're going to be on break, I know probably every staff member is going to do something related to work during those 2 weeks because they just can't help themselves. It's like, because when I come back, I have to be ready for my kids at all levels. And so that's what keeps me here. That's why I'm grateful. I'm excited for working with this new board and making sure that you have what you need to continue to provide the high level of support for all of our students and staff. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Go, Trustee Wong.
I'm usually on this side, so I'm
I
like,
didn't
hey.
know which way to go. I could
I
go
don't
either
know.
way,
We'll
but
see.
you look.
We might be actually on the other side again. How it goes. On the student note, first time ever bringing our student board members to the AAC, and so tremendously grateful to have them. And clearly, it's paid off because Mariana stayed for the issue that she cared about. Not that those who left before were any less. It just, again, they need the training, the confidence in the training, and really just grateful for us to spend that expenditure on our students who are future community leaders, are future people who will be sitting here, right, and should be sitting here. And that was so exciting. Congratulations to our new trustees, and condolences, I think, for all of us. Just joking. Really great to have spent time. CSBA is one of those things, especially with a new council, new board. Just breaking bread, understanding each other, taking pictures, being silly, looking at fireworks in the fog. All those things are really just wonderful memories with our governance team and our superintendent. So. Definitely. I'll be honest, I feel like we hadn't had that type of experience in a really long time with this board in all the years that I've been here. So it was really nice. And it might just be an all-female thing. I don't know.
It could have been that it was Disney.
It was
across
also
the way,
Disney.
the magical place.
Even though I
We
did
were not at Disney
even
to
though I
make
did not
this
walk
public.
into baby powder smelling lobbies or beautiful trees. I am happy to have the privilege and honor of serving as the regional director. A lot of what we're experiencing here is being experienced across the board, and really good to hear. And again, a place to hear from your colleagues about like how do we do this? We wouldn't have done OPEB, and so hopefully we will bring. The question is when we go to those trainings, what are we bringing back? So hopefully that's the opportunity for us to bring that back as well. And the golden bell, you didn't ring it, so I was about to wonder if you were going to bring it.
I brought it. I made sure to bring it.
And lots of holiday cheer, and our staff have poured so much into this community. Collings Cares also happened a couple weekends ago. On that Saturday, I know that was purely staff driven. It was beautiful. I'm told it was the best ever. Ellie Leon, I was told it was the best ever from staff and community members, and beautiful and all of that. So just grateful for our staff who really make it special for all of our students and our community and our partnership. West Sac Kids Give Back was wonderful. Our partnership with Council Member Karina Orozco and the Girl Scouts showing up, doing all that. It really is about civic engagement. Beautiful to see our community come together for that event every single year. And I am just grateful for all of the events, including Shop of the Cop and Kwanzaa. I think it's important to acknowledge what happened at our River City High School campus. That is intolerable. That any type of hate speech and that occurs on campus, that we need to nip in the bud. We need to make public statements, which I believe the principal did. But I really appreciate the students saying, it's not just about the words. It really also about when people were adopting anti-Asian hate resolutions. It's not just about the resolution, and I've said this in all of my interviews coming up here. It's like, great, we pass words. The words don't matter if we can't actually emotionally protect our kids from stuff like that. or staff, quite frankly, who actually experiencing it, are experiencing seeing those words as well. We need to do more. We need to be better. We need to do better. Because this is, in the last couple of months, it's happened too much. We are responsible. We are the board that, one, needs to do more than passing resolutions, that we need to empower our staff. Really excited about the work ahead, and I thank you in advance because it's going to be hard work. I don't imagine it being any easier because the things that even happened the day after election was really disappointing on so many fronts. That people feel emboldened to treat people and say things. And students are empowered, and adults are empowered to say things that are just hate-filled, and that's not okay. We need to be better for our community, and I'm just grateful for this board and what we've done to move forward, to be better, because that we are the model, and we need to hold people accountable to the treatment of students and staff on our campus. So Kwanzaa was really a beautiful way to celebrate. Thank you, June, and others Patrice, who helped organize the second annual. I know a lot was going on. There was a basketball game, there was Frozen, there was soccer, there was band playing, there was a lot going on. And we had a really powerful showing, regardless of all the things that happened. Just grateful for that time to reset, because this is what the holidays are. Grateful to our teachers who spent, please take the time, go rest and do what you need to. Maybe go to Disneyland. I'm told that there's a day that Disney sells $50 tickets. Check and go get your $50 tickets for the year. I don't know what that is, but check every day. Because it was magical even though we didn't go to Disneyland. Lastly, I wanted to share with folks that SB 54, not just our safe haven, but the state of California passed the California Values Act about how local and state dollars were not going to be utilized in immigration or ICE issues. And there's a forum that was being hosted by the Yolo County Office of Education, the Yolo County School Boards Association on Monday, January 13th from 4 to 5:30. Happy to share it with you all. Maybe we can give that to our families who are, again, building that relationship with law enforcement, saying, hey, this is, we have our safe haven, but we also need, they need to know that even in the streets that they are protected by law. And so I will pass that on to you all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Hunt. Oh, back to
And one
Trustee
more,
Wong.
no, that's okay. And guaranteed acceptance, Sac State has also done, is also extending to students in foster care, regardless of ethnic background. Yeah. So that's just a note.
So I'll start with stingers up. I just wanted to say I'm honored to serve on the school board with all of you and to continue to build the relationships and work with my fellow trustees, the administration, the community to continue to advance the future of all of the children in our district. I want to take a quick minute to acknowledge those that came before us and all of the work they've done, the foundation that has been laid for us to continue to be successful. I'm committed to learning everything I can learn and need to learn to be successful in this role. Above all, I'm committed to the success and well-being of all of the children in our district. That's number one for me, as I'm sure it is for everybody in this room. Education was important to me as a child. I loved it, and I truly believe that it can shape you as an individual. So I hope, to be a part of that with the children in our community. I would like to thank all the district staff who has helped in the transition and put the time and effort already into, just giving us guidance, insight, information, including attending the CSBA conference. I agree it was a great opportunity. One, I learned a lot, but also to build relationships with everybody here before starting the job on day one. So I really appreciate that we had that opportunity. I wanted to thank you. I saw that the cell phone policy went out and was communicated to the community. So thank you for doing that. I think there's been, I think it'd be good to communicate what instructional time means and make sure that we're all understanding that consistently. I was here when it was explained to the board, but I think we need to do the same thing and explain it to our students, teachers, any adult on campus, parents. People might be interpreting it their own way. So I think that's important. And then it would be good to have a consistent implementation of this policy across all of our sites, and consistent consequences for the policy across all of the sites. So I think the communication even said it might be a little bit challenging, but I think we should all be consistent and make sure that each site, each teacher has a plan to move forward and be successful in implementing this policy. As Jackie said, we can pass words all day long, but we need to follow that up with action. And that's all I have for tonight.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Clerk Castro.
Oh, gosh. I blinked out. I too actually appreciated going to the conference with all of the trustees and getting to know Monique and Shay and even Mario, because I had not even Mario. Mario's like the most important piece. He puts all of the puzzle pieces together. No, but I really, it was a good, I feel like I went back like, oh, this is gonna be good. Like, we all got along. There was no cat fights, only some food poisoning, a little bit. So
Not by any trustee.
not by a trustee, but no. So I appreciated that, and I took away a lot of good things from the conference and the sessions that they had. I think that Be Happy session was really good because they have data that shows when you're in a state of happiness, you just are more productive, and I think that is true for kids and for adults. So that was really good. And then this weekend Friday, I went to Elkhorn's Winter Wonderland. There was so much going on. Elkhorn's Winter Wonderland. So I wanted to put out a shout out to the boosters at Elkhorn, because they did a really good job. The pozole was bomb, the red. I didn't have the green. The tamales were great. The vendors were good. And then straight from there, I went to, my son is in band. So Riverbank and Elkhorn had a joint performance, and River City Marching Band was featured. So it was really, really good. They did a great job on that. So I want to acknowledge that. I don't think we got a chance to thank our family and everybody else. It went so fast earlier. So I did want to acknowledge my family and then the supporters in the room, because I didn't have to run a campaign, and I'm so grateful and thankful, but they would have been the people that were out there with my signs and knocking on doors and calling and doing all of those things. So I am so grateful and so blessed to be able to have a village like them. So I wanted to acknowledge them publicly. I think there anything else? I don't know if there was anything else. Probably remember later, but I want to keep it short. I'm tired.
We still have to go back.
I know. So
All
thank you
right.
for that.
Vice President Coffey.
Yes, so much has happened since the last time we've met. Definitely one of the things that I'm very happy about is the YOLO handball ball ribbon cutting ceremony. I can't say that enough thank you. Because literally day one, coming in, hearing the kids of what they wanted and what they needed, I was like, that is my mission to get going, and to see it happen and have that celebration and them having a tournament and Yeah, it was great, and just seeing them being oh so positive was great. So I'm just happy for that. Yes, lots of plays, bands, matches, basketball, soccer, everything under the sun, wrestling, just a lot going on. And at the same time, I'm very, very happy that our new trustees were able to make it to the CSBA conference. And I'm going to say that with your first year getting on board and having that before you start, I can't even express how important it is. My onboarding was a little different, and that's okay. I'm not bitter. I'm just like, learn from what has happened and how can we improve, because I am oh so positive. All right, so with that, the conference was great. There was a lot of information that we all went to, and then after we went to these sessions, we came back and we started talking about it. And it's like, okay, now what? So we're now at that phase of, what do we do with this information? How do we go about sharing this with y'all so that way we can start seeing that in our school sites or all across the district? What do we need to do? And now this is where I'm coming to you guys and telling and asking, what do you guys need from us, from the knowledge that we've gotten from these conferences, so we can share and give you guys our little nuggets of knowledge, because we really came out of that place wanting to, oh, that was good. How do I get that? Oh, that was great. How can we implement that? And there was a lot. Everybody was like, I'm going to this, I'm going to this. Okay, tag team, I'll see you there. And it was really moving in a lot of these sessions. So please, Dr. H, let us know what we can do to share what we've learned, because there is a lot of good things that are happening, and I really do believe a lot of those good things that are happening at other school districts can happen here at Washington Unified. So the golden bell, ding, 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 over there. There it is. It was an honor to accept that on behalf of the school district. I can't thank every single person who influences and impacts a student to come to school with the crossing guard. Hey, that smile of, it's going to be a good day. This is getting there is half the battle, like that's pretty much it. Starting from there, and then the kids going into the lunchroom and seeing that smile of like, oh, this is a meal, thank you. Seeing their teacher every morning, the yard duty, the security staff, just anybody and everybody who comes into contact, secretaries, everybody, even those that are calling and just seeing how they're doing, social workers, counselors. They all have made an impact in one individual's life, and every single one of them has helped a child in some way, shape, or form within our district to want to come back the next day. So kudos to all of you. It was an honor to accept on your behalf. So thank you. Next year, it will be in Sacramento. So if you know of performance or of somebody who, has a band or you want to participate or a dancing or something, they are accepting applications. They'll be accepting applications. I don't think they're doing it right now, but they will be accepting them. So you can start applying and we can get that all taken, hopefully you guys can go ahead and do it. So, yeah, wanted to make sure that was put out there. Also, one of the things that was brought to my attention and I really want to start seeing a little bit more of is our wonderful Washington Middle College High School, the school itself. Like, they are not I don't want to say this like the stepchild. They are part of our district. I think we should be able to highlight them more, what's going on, especially after leaving that conference and seeing so much. I'm like, oh, Washington Middle College High School, Washington Middle College High School. Like, I literally was in the back of my head, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be great. Like, when we do our reports, having them being able to present, well, what do they have? What's their data? Making them feel a part of the district, not just a side, like, oh, by the way, we're here. It's, we're here. Let's showcase them. And making them feel like they are included, especially when we had the last school board report. I believe it was like the growth of English, math, and I think science. I'm not sure if Washington Middle was included in that, or if they were included in that data, maybe perhaps like showcasing it just a little bit more so we can see like the difference. Other than that, it has been a whirlwind of so many things that are going on. The holidays, all of the different types of celebrations, and just being with family and friends and loved ones. Sometimes the holidays can also be a really hard time for individuals who either are unable to be with their families or they don't have a family. So just be that positive smile. I mean, sometimes I know it's hard because you're going through your own stuff, but just know that sometimes your smile is contagious and it really does affect others. So don't just be about words, also be about action. And I hope you all have a wonderful winter break. Celebrate how you celebrate, enjoy the time off, and for sure we will see you next year. That's all I got.
All right, thank you. We do. We have the best people here at Washington Unified. I was, you remember John Miller, he retired, but then he never really retired. And so he and I were talking in the parking lot at Yolo High School because he's back working at Yolo High School, subbing and helping our kids and supporting them. And I knew I needed to get the handball thing, but I was like, well, I have a little bit of time. So we continued our conversation in the parking lot. And then I see one trustee walk out, then the other trustee walk out. But it was worth giving my time. We had a great conversation that I too got to eventually get back there and see that beautiful wall and really excited kids. And so there are so many things going on. All the trustees shared so many of them that are just, it's a gift to have in our community, so many opportunities for our own children to get back. I don't know how much longer my girls will let me be their troop leader, but because now my troop is 808 is in 8th grade, so we'll see how long we get. But we've done a lot of volunteering, and there's just so many opportunities, especially this time, and it really is a gift to have that and to demonstrate to our kids how do we get back in our community. And our teachers and all of our staff who work so hard. I got to the end of Shop with a Cop and we still had so many of our staff there. And I said, oh, well, I hope you get to go enjoy your weekend at some point. And I was told, well, not until every kid leaves. And so that's just how our staff is. They're just phenomenal. And tonight, as we were coming in, I realized my daughter was still at school, my younger one, and I had to tell her she needed to leave because it was getting dark, and she bikes because she wanted to help her teacher get ready for the holiday party. Well, that meant her teacher was there too. I just really want to help her mom. And so they worked together in the classroom doing that. And I know that across our district, people are just working really hard. Research shows too, it's one of the hardest times in education right now. And so what we really need people to do is then take this break and just take a breath and take some time. Very hard to do that sometimes, but just put it down and just spend some time doing whatever it is that fills your cup. Because when we come back, research also says that that's going to be on the upswing as we get back after that break and we see the light of where we're going. And I do want to give a special shout out to the thespians who did Frozen at River City High School. And a really cool thing about that is because of Camp Yampa, run by our thespians, after the play, they're like superstars, to our kids that are in Camp Yampa. And so afterwards, to have a high schooler say to you, when you'll be in high school next year, but not yet, hey, hi, Addie, hey, you guys. And to see all the kids who've been in Camp Yampa have that connection already is really, really cool. It's really makes me happy. Yeah, so many good things. I think that the piece about CSBA and how do we share, I have an idea, a proposal maybe, is that when we do our board governance workshop, is that we take some time within our board governance workshop to do some share outs where we all can just kind of simmer and think on what are your key takeaways that you really think would be really good to share. And that might be a nice opportunity where it's agendized and we can also just kind of talk through it, but we can, I think that might be a nice opportunity too. Okay, and then with that, I just want to thank President Coffey for her time as our school board president, coming in and running our meetings late nights, sometimes, contentious, and all of the things that come with it, all of the joy and getting the bell, and then also the challenges too. So I want to thank you for leading us this last year. And it's been a privilege to serve under your leadership. And I want to thank this entire board and congratulations to you for your reelection, to your elections, and I'm looking forward.
And speaking of that, as we in the superintendent's office try and think about how do we let our trustees know how much we appreciate you in taking on this level of leadership positions. Many of us in the district and my colleagues across the state, when we're at CSBA, we're like, that's some bravery. To be a school board member is bravery. And so speaking of that, we have a little gavel for former President Coffey, presented to Virginia Coffey, Board President 2024, in appreciation of your dedicated service to our schools.
Highlight.
Yeah.
Yeah. If only we could all take a break now,
Right, but we cannot.
We're about to go back in, so we'll do anything for our future board agenda items first. Does anybody have anything? We have our governing board budget study session in February that we already alluded to, and then we had our board governance workshop. We don't have a date yet, but we're working on that. Actually, can we say yes? Can we just say the handbook? Because I think it would be good if it comes back before February, and I think it will be easy. It's pretty good. So if we could do the board handbook, maybe it will come back to the board. Let's say we'll come back to the board by 2 meetings in February, by the second meeting in February. Okay, that's right. Who are we? That's doable. And then I think maybe at some point we can look at how it should weave in to your board governance. It's not urgent, but to have an update on wellness centers, either what are the challenges, how is it going, what is our status on our wellness centers? Do they have all the supports they need, and whatnot? And do we have anything else? Okay, well then that means we get to go back. So we're going to go back into closed session as a reminder. We're going into session for closed session items 3, 4, and 5. And that will be reported out at the end of the meeting, but we wish everyone a safe and happy holidays.